our keynote presentation is entitled Recovery is Global, Positively Impacting Addiction Through Education, Empowerment and Collaboration. So this talk will focus on how a united approach can revolutionize the landscape of addiction recovery. Our esteemed speaker will explore innovative strategies that combine education to increase awareness, empowerment to inspire action, and collaboration across borders to strengthen recovery networks. Please join me in welcoming Naetha Uren, CEO and founder of Recovery Coach Academy.
Good morning. How is everyone doing? I hope you're all as excited to be here as I am today. So, my name is Naetha Uren, and I am, yes, the CEO of Recovery Coach Academy, but today I just want to spread some hope, some positivity, and share with you some of the things I have learned on my journey. When I found out about recovery coaching, I knew it was my calling, but I wasn't brave enough to take action initially. Am I on this one now? When I found recovery coaching, I was not brave enough to take any action. I knew it was the work I was meant to do. And then I'll tell you about one day, about 7 years ago, I was at a place called the Houston Council on Recovery in Houston, Texas. And it was about 7:30 in the morning, and I was on the rooftop garage, leaned against my car, iced coffee in hand, watching the sunset come up. And I just went, this is it. My business head and my people heart connected, and fireworks went off. And I knew I could make a difference. I knew it. I just didn't know how that would happen. And the reason that day is so significant to me is because 3 days before, I dropped my daughter off at a residential treatment center for addiction. She was beaten, she was broken, but we had a window of opportunity where we could get help for her. And I never wanted my daughter to live in shame and silence and be anonymous if she did not choose to be anonymous. So that started this passion to make a difference. Today, I want to hopefully educate you a little bit about my journey. I really hope to spark a lot of really good conversations. I hope you find some of the fireworks that I found that day. And I was going to say I want to create a few recovery allies in the room today, but I want to create a room full of global recovery allies here today so we can all make a difference, because it takes all of us. Let me give you a little bit of information. So we have chosen to align at Recovery Coach Academy with the SAMHSA definition of recovery. So that's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration in the US. And they have defined recovery as a process of change which individuals improve their health, their wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. That's a really formal definition. So what does that look like in practicality? So when we're helping people improve their health and wellness, it's more than the drugs, the alcohol, the gambling, the technology, whatever that may be. It is how do we help them then manage any health conditions they have. All of a sudden they might choose to find better nutrition, better fitness, better ways of living, holistic ways of living. So as recovery and recovery coaches, we can support them through that whole journey beyond the stopping. Living a self-directed life, setting goals, going for what we want to achieve in life. Often people think that people in recovery spend a lot of time every day in maybe a church basement, drinking really bad coffee, meeting. People in recovery can change the world. They are so much more than that. They can inspire, they can take their lived experience. I met with a gentleman recently, and he wants to set up recovery roofing, where he trains people with a trade who are in recovery to set up their own businesses or have apprenticeships and make a difference. So often we believe in the people that we work with more than they believe in themselves initially. So we can be their cheerleaders, their motivators, their guides, their supporters to help all that come to life. And also people want to strive to reach their full potential in recovery, be part of a community, make a difference. That can be things as simple as registering to vote for the first time. They have an impact. They might get involved with local community groups. They may actually decide to advocate in the Houses of Parliament. Who knows? But when we support people to reach their full potential, they may end up standing on a stage at Health 2.0 or Education 2.0, talking to people like you. Oh, it looks like it worked. So when we create allies and advocate for recovery, we're able to break some of the stereotypes and myths around addiction, substance use, and recovery. A lot of people think from the media and the different ways we take information in, when you hear the word addiction, you think about stigma, loss, pain, broken families, broken marriages, unemployed, homelessness. There's more to it. That is addiction. We're talking about recovery. A lot of people think everyone has to hit rock bottom. And what I can tell you is when we create communities and spaces for caring, compassionate conversations, we don't have to let everybody hit rock bottom. We can intervene, we can provide that support, and we can make a difference. A lot of people think that people with a problem are only hurting themselves. My daughter, the pain that caused our family when she suffered with addiction. You know, when she was in an abusive relationship and we couldn't rescue, we couldn't help. You know, it was me, my husband, my mom, her son, the neighbors, our friends. So many other people are impacted. This is not a selfish one person disease. And addiction is not a moral failing. At some point, it is not a choice. It is a way to survive. You know, it is a health condition. If somebody has cancer, the symptoms you may see are loss of hair, loss of weight, illness. And when they tell their friends, people rock up to the house with a casserole, some flowers, you know, how can we help you? But often somebody suffering with addiction, the symptoms you might see are selfishness, manipulation, lying, withdrawal. And when we tell our friends, the response we often get is silence. We want to change that narrative today. We want to embrace those families that need support to help, because families are the ones that often are showing up every day and trying to help or care for a loved one at home. When my family was impacted by addiction, it changed our life in not a good way, but recovery transformed our life. It gave me a path to a purpose to turn something that was devastating. I did not know if my daughter would live, into standing here today before all of you. You know, it was a path to a purpose to make a difference. Oh. So for every person that is impacted directly, there are so many people. And it's not just the family members I mentioned. It is the employers, it's the people in the community, and recovery is inclusive of all of us. I recently spoke to a room of about 200 people that were not in an addiction and recovery space. And I asked them all to stand up. I said, please sit down if you have been directly or indirectly impacted by somebody who had a substance use, alcohol, or gambling problem. And in a room full of CEOs and leaders from every industry, 198 out of 200 people sat down. That is why we need to have this conversation. These are the people that are all around us that need to be involved. So the power of education in recovery. Education has been the foundation that has helped us build recovery communities. Through community education, we create awareness, we create safe spaces for conversations, we're able to reach out and help. And even when we educate, some people just come up to us afterwards and say, I think I might have a problem. We create a space to do more and help more. By training coaches, we have made impacts locally, just in a really small community. We've made impacts within businesses and organizations. We've made impacts internationally. And I will share some of that work with you in a minute. And through collaboration and building relationships and being open to adapt curriculum, especially for us from a very Western way to being implemented in Qatar, which I'll come to, we've navigated that really well, but it's all been through co-production, collaboration, and education. So education, when we talk about who we educate and what we do with it, is more than just a person who has been impacted directly by addiction. Yes, people with lived experience bring a very different heart and emotion. They can align with people, they can find trust and rapport. When we add professional skills to lived experience, it's priceless, like MasterCard. Priceless, you know? And we can create a space where they can be contributing members of society, they can have employment, and they can really feel that they've turned around and got a second chance. And I'm all for second chances. When we educate people and we create the allies of recovery, they often are able to advocate and support recovery in ways that people with lived experience can't. You know, we have an amazing member of parliament in the UK, Dan Carden, and he stood up in the Houses of Parliament and he was the first member of parliament to say, I am in recovery and we need to pay attention to this at a government level. Education also is about workforce development. Not only creating employment for people with lived experience, often family members can join this workforce and advocate for different things in recovery, but it's also about educating clinical teams, business teams about how to navigate and understand how they can be part of the recovery workforce. It enhances their knowledge. I mean, people who are in the medical profession, they get a little bit of education about addiction, but if you ask them how much education they get about recovery, they usually don't get any. And we want to change that space, you know? And we can help combat stigma. You know, when we educate people, we change the narrative. Even just educating people about the power of language and recovery language can change how somebody opens up to you and talks to you and reaches out. And language, stigma, we can change people's hearts and minds and perceptions about addiction to recovery. So when I had this wild idea that I was going to make a great big impact, I realized that, you know, having a good idea wasn't all that was required. Needed a bit of support here and how could I do this? So I went looking and I found an organization in the States that was nonprofit that had the gold standard of recovery coaching. And I ended up on a Zoom meeting by fate, higher power, call it what you want, with the CEO and the director of training for that organization. And they kept saying, let's have another meeting. Let's have another meeting. And I now, in hindsight, know they were checking my heart. They wanted to make sure that my intentions and my motivation and my passion was pure. This was about mission over margin, passion over profit. This was about doing good work with respect, integrity, gratitude, honesty, and transparency. And they said to me, have any of you seen the movie The Field of Dreams? You know that line? If you build it, they will come. They one up that. They said, if you build it, they will come and we will help you. And they role modeled collaboration, connection, working together. And now today, if anybody comes to me and says, hey, can you help us do this? I say, if you build it, they will come and I will help you. You know? So they gave us a curriculum to work with. We worked to adapt that curriculum to the UK, to figure out how we could make it fit for purpose for our community. And they helped us build momentum and they helped us make an impact and they empowered me. And I was just a mom that wanted to make a difference. And they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself and my ability to do this. So we delivered the first course, the first Recovery Coach Academy training course. And of course, like many of you know, that C thing happened, COVID. So I wanted to make an impact in my lovely little local community in England. And before I knew it, I had people from 27 countries signing up for online training. And they were not going back to the recovery communities like I knew and felt. So I was like, how do we do this? How do we support these people? And one of the first students 4.5 years ago said to me, and it has stuck, he said, this isn't a course, this is a community. So we've developed a community. We've got an app. They all engage. We've got people who've been engaging in that community for more than 4 years. It is a place to dream. It is a place to be brave. It's a place to ask the hard questions. It's a place to connect with people globally and make a bigger impact, to find points of collaboration, because we do not have to do this work alone. And more than anything, they build momentum. I am amazed at some of the things these change agents are doing in their communities. But these connections have become the backbone, and these people have taken education and put it into action. Ooh. So when we empower people, we really do foster a culture of compassion. When we educate people, and it's not just about the book and the theory and the training, it's about the heart. This is hard work, but it is heart work. And when the heart connects, we have empathy, we have understanding. Every human being deserves the right to have a good life, and with a bit of humility and kindness, we can change this space. So who do we empower? Yes, we empower people with lived experience, and they can go on to do lots of different things. Some people work as recovery support specialists. Some people actually go out and advocate. Some people are the most amazing mentors, and they mentor and role model what recovery looks like. But too often we label people as their recovery status only. So some of those people in recovery are doctors, they're lawyers, they're business people, they're CEOs. So not only can they role model and mentor recovery, they can role model and mentor other skills as well. We create collaboration where people with lived experience can impact service delivery within drug and alcohol services or communities. And they also can be part of steering committees to help decision making, so that lived experience is truly brought to the forefront of decision making. There's a saying in the world of recovery, nothing for us without us. And if there's not a seat at the table for us, please build a bigger table. There is room for all of us, and when we work together, we can really impact things. People in recovery are also CEOs. They run organizations, they influence policy, they're entrepreneurs. Often lots of people in recovery get told to volunteer, and that is great. Please volunteer. But we are more than volunteers. We can do it all, and we can do both. Collaboration is at the key. I cannot do this alone. Addiction is a global problem. Lots of people may not want to talk about that, but addiction is a global problem. And I believe recovery coaching can be a part of that global solution. And we need to we need to look at things globally, regionally, nationally, and locally. Because what we can learn from others internationally, we can adapt and bring to your regions. And then you can choose to implement those tools and adapt them on a local basis that is fit for purpose for your community. We've got the power to change things and to really make a difference, to create healthier, happier communities, transform people's lives, and change the narrative about what people think about addiction. This is my lovely family. This is my daughter in recovery. This is my little grandson when he graduated from pre-K, because during this process, I became a grandmother raising a grandchild. That was my life. My husband has advocated and supported me. He is, bless that man. He lives in a crazy household with all of us, and he is my daughter's stepdad, and he has taken her and her son into our home. Family is so important. But family members can advocate for family recovery on a very different way than we do as people with lived experience. They can drive systematic change. They can role model to other families what healthy families and relationships look like. The power of families is just immense. And by bringing them in to be part of this community and value them, we can really change the way that people talk about addiction, and we can support the people that are often not seen. When we create allies of recovery, like I said, public figures and leaders often have a different platform to people like me. So they can help reduce the stigma and change perceptions and narratives. There are lots of different demographics in recovery. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. In my world, we talk about multiple pathways of recovery. And I believe recovery is like a buffet. Do you ever go to a buffet and they say you can only have the carrot cake and the broccoli, everything else is off limits? You know, no. We want a buffet of every pathway to recovery where people can pick and choose and try things and keep doing the things that they need. But if they want to add something new into that mix, it's available and accessible whenever they need it. We want clinical professionals who understand what addiction and recovery is, because it truly takes a village to make this change. In the UK, we have a lot of things about employee well-being. We have spent lots of money on menopause health, mental health, obesity, suicide in men. We do not have a recovery conversation in the workplace. So we are working really hard to help organizations become recovery-friendly workplaces. Often a lot of employers are scared to have this conversation. They want to say, we don't have anybody in our business using drugs or alcohol. No, but I bet you have someone who loves someone who has a problem. And they're showing up for work after they've been up all night caring for somebody. How do we create a safe space in the workplace to support those people? How do we create a safe place where if somebody goes to find recovery, they are welcomed back into that employment and can become a valued, loyal employee? We want to create the conversations that advocate for recovery-friendly workplaces. So, the power of collaboration and co-production. I want to share with you some of the work we've been doing over the past 2 years in Qatar. I got a call one day and they said, can we talk to you about recovery coaching? And I was like, yes. I don't speak Arabic, by the way, was one of my first comments. And I think they saw our mission, they saw our vision, and they said, can you help us? And I was like, just say yes, show up and do the work. So we did. Dr. Albraham here presented some of the information I'm going to show you now at the International Society for Substance Use Professionals in Thessaloniki, Greece this summer as an abstract about the outcomes and work that we have done. And this was his quote. He said, recovery is more than an individual journey. It's a movement that can change cultures and improve outcomes across society. So what have we done? I think I have to click over here. Right. So we have worked with an organization called NAFAR. They are the partner for the Ministry of Health and a state-of-the-art treatment facility in Qatar. We were invited to partnership with them to develop culturally adapted programs with a holistic approach. But our initial goal was to create a model that was self-sustainable in the Arabic language that they could keep growing and developing independently beyond the work that I had done with them. So what did that look like? They built a really big table and we got a lot of people around it. We had leaders, the CEOs, clinical directors, medical staff, clinical educators, and people with lived experience. We went through every page of that curriculum. We worked to make it culturally appropriate. It had to speak to the soul of recovery, but it also had to speak to the soul of their culture. Like I said, we wanted a non-English speaking model at the end of this, which was very challenging for me to think about in the beginning. And it required from every person at that table a willingness to be open-minded, to be brave, to have humility that we didn't know it all. And like one of my mentors said, we just had to build the plane while we were flying it. So what we actually did, initially after we had a first draft of some culturally appropriate material, we delivered the first round of training, and we had about 50-something people in the room who spoke both Arabic and English. I brought some colleagues who had helped create the curriculum from the US to partner with me to deliver that. We trained those people over 2 weeks. We then did a second round where we used some of the people who had done the first training to co-facilitate and translate. So the second training was delivered in Arabic alongside us. Alongside with us, and we navigated with that look, and then we reviewed the curriculum and made appropriate changes. The third round was independently delivered by Arabic-speaking participants in Qatar, and we were in the room to provide feedback, support, and help navigate that process. So to date, over the past 18 months, we've had 524 people do that training. I believe I have done a lot of recovery coach professional assessments over the past few weeks. We are about to have 50 people in Qatar that have received the professional designation of a recovery coach professional. 6 of those people have now gone on to be trained to be Arabic-speaking facilitators. And 6 recovery coaches have now been employed in a brand new role, full-time, providing recovery support services to individuals and families in Arabic within the facility. We realized along with that, there had to be other stuff, and NAFAR embraced the challenge and the change. They now provide weekly group supervision and individual supervision. We like to call it coachavision. Supervision often is about how individuals help the business and make sure they're on track with that. Coachavision is how do I make sure you're the best coach that you can be to serve your community. They also established a brand new leadership role within their management team, which was Patient Education, Employment, and Volunteering Department. And they are now in the process of formalizing officially the recovery coach job descriptions and volunteer tasks so they can employ even more people. What next? So, scaling an ambition for this project. I never thought I would just be saying this. By the end of 2024, they hope to have 10 full-time paid recovery coaches with 20 trained volunteers taking on volunteer roles. They are now growing those recovery coach professionals with a cohort that they are supporting if they want to continue their education. So whether that be in counseling, psychology, fitness, whatever those recovery coaches choose to add. And I'll touch on fitness. You know, the power of getting on a bicycle, and coaching somebody while you just go on a bike ride has been immense. You know, in England, we work with an organization in Northern Ireland that does recovery coaching fitness. They have fitness trainers who work in a gym setting who are also recovery coaching, because not everybody wants to go to a treatment center or a drug and alcohol service. What next? We are hoping to expand the recovery coaching peer support training. We're adding more new curriculum to help upskill, where they are actually building a cohort of recovery coaches that are Qatari nationals to support Qatari families. We are hoping to grow the recovery coaching beyond the walls of NAFAR out into the community. And they have an ambition alongside us to extend this Arabic language recovery coaching opportunity across the whole of the region of the GCC. So I love this quote. Dr. Albraham said, "We didn't just buy a program, we empowered a community." And in January 2025 next year, I will be going out and we will be delivering the first Arabic facilitator who is training facilitators. So we just consistently are building on this to build a self-sustainable model. When Dr. Abraham delivered this presentation in Greece, these were the main takeaways, and I think they apply here today. You know, recovery is global. Visibility of recovery helps create hope and it reduces stigma. The cultural adaptation and collaboration will help drive systematic change, and building recovery capital helps reintegration and reduces relapse. So I think all of us today can take that away as well. Just this week, Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, issued a statement, I believe on Monday. She advocates as the royal family member on taking action on addiction. And I think you will see she has just said some of the things I've said today. We need compassion. Addiction is an illness. It is a collective responsibility for all of us, and we need hope for recovery. And she says recovery is possible, and I do too. So, my call to action for all of you today, let's just have a conversation. So, whether you know it or not, in this room is, I believe, over 110 years of lived experience in recovery. And whether you want a conversation with me, could I ask Mims, Daryl, Karen, all of you to stand up? Please, everyone, have a look around the room. At the back of the room, all of these lovely people are advocates for recovery, and they are all here ready and willing to have a conversation. So if you don't want to talk to me, please talk to one of them, because this is a great opportunity that we can put a face on recovery. They all work for different organizations, but this is an example of collaboration. The tent is big enough for all of us. So please, let's have these conversations over the next 3 days. I encourage you to go back to your communities and have a conversation. Figure out what addiction and recovery tools are needed in your community, and let's find a way to get them there. Learn how to challenge stigma, and please learn about recovery language. It can make a difference. Let's see. Where's my little clicker? Princess Kate said recovery is possible. I do too, and I know this is possible. And I don't do this very often, but I'm standing here in front of you as a woman in long-term sustained personal recovery. I have over 27 years in recovery myself. I am the mom of a daughter who is about to celebrate 7 years in recovery. She is the youngest member of the Faces and Voices of Recovery Board of Trustees in the UK. She advocates to make recovery possible for young people. I am the glue to 4 generations, age 11 to 82, that all live in the same house. It is controlled chaos, but it is full of love, and we are thriving in recovery. So this is what recovery can look like, and this is a lot better picture than the picture of addiction. So please, recovery is possible for me, and recovery is possible for all your communities. So if we can do anything to help while we are here, please reach out. And I want to thank Education 2.0 and Health 2.0, because we talk about recovery first in my world, but today they have put recovery first on day one of their conferences in 2 different rooms. So there is change happening. And I thank you all so much for your time. If you want to reach out to us, this is some of my lovely team. Bajat delivers this training in Arabic, Lebanese, French, English. We also have access to it in Spanish. And just scan the QR code, have a conversation in private and public. I don't care. Let's just have the conversation. Thank you all so much for your time.